So hello everyone, welcome once again to my YouTube channel. So in the previous video we have discussed about Weiss and variance, and in today's video we are going to discuss about underfitting, overfitting problems and what are the various reasons that causes these problems. So we have already discussed about the problem of underfitting. So we know when underfitting happens, this happens when the model of complexity of the model is too less, and then it learns from the data with very less data, means the training has been done very less. So in that case the problem of underfitting occurs. So we can also say if the model is very much simple. So simple model basically is a model that will fails to learn from the patterns that are from which it is supposed to learn, and this case happens when there is low variance and high bias. Why high bias? We know that the high bias is the difference between predicted value and the actual value. So when this gap is very high, that is the predicted value and actual value gap is very high, then in that case it will lead to the problem of underfitting. Or on the other side we can say the problem of this underfitting is happening because the model has been not trained properly, or it has been trained with a very basic knowledge, so it will not be able to learn. Fine. So when we talk of this underfitting data visualization, how can we visualize that problem of underfitting? This can be done with the help of a graph. So let's say have a look at this plot. If we look at this problem, we are having two classes over here. So where class 1 is this green color x crosses, and class 2 is nothing else, this is a golden circle. So when any model is applied over it, then it divides this into two classes. So this is detecting the problem of underfitting in classification with the visualization. So in this case we can see that all the elements have been not accurately classified. So if we have a look at this diagram, there are few circles that are coming on this side, and along this side there are few green crosses that are coming into this one. This is class 1, this is class 2, and some are inaccurately classified into the wrong class. Now if we want to reduce this error, what we try to do in this case, we will try to do something like this. Fine, we try to make a curve like this, which will try to pick all these crosses on one side. Now if you look at this red line, it is classifying all the circles in class 2 and all this in class 1. But what is happening in this case? This is the model is becoming very much complex. So complexity level is becoming high in this case for this fitness curve, and at the same time this problem from underfitting will move to the problem of overfitting, where the model will become complex, and this is not at all acceptable. So we will go with this thing only, and this is known as underfitting because the model has been very less trained, so it is not accurately identifying all the values. But we can move towards an appropriate fitting. We are not talking of the best fitting, we are talking of appropriate fitting. So this line, this red line, which is in the form of a curve, is representing over here the thing that is this you can say fit line is representing appropriate fitting. In this case we can see only these two crosses are coming into class 2. Others are very much accurately classified into the different classes. So in this case from underfitting we can get appropriate fitting. But remember, don't try to do overfitting, because overtraining, it will lead toward the problem of overfitting. So this is how we are talking of classification, identification of underfitting in classification. Now next let's have a look at how we can identify underfitting in data visualization, that is regression. So when we talk of regression, we know in classification we are talking of two classes. but regression works on a single thing. So in this case we are having these x parameters. So one type of you can say this is one attribute on which we are working. So if this is line, it says that not actually predicting all the values, all the lines are not on the linear regression line. So in this case this is not properly fitted, and this is the problem of regression. Now in the second diagram we can see this line is in the curve form and which is trying to touch most of the point. The points are very close to this fitness line. So this is the problem of underfitting that is detected with this visualization known as regression. And we know that we are unable to fit properly to given value due to low model complexity. So now let's see how we can detect underfitting. Till now we have visualized the underfitting. Now we will see how we can detect the problem of underfitting. So this happens when there is loss of training and validation. If the model is underfitting, then the loss of training and validation data will significantly be very high. In terms of deep learning, the loss will not decrease at the rate that it is supposed to if the model has reached the saturation or in underfitting. And the next thing that comes is oversimplistic prediction graph. In this case, the graph that is being plotted for the data points is very much simple. It is a simply a fitted curve, and the curve in that case is too much simple that the model, it represents that the model is suffering from underfitting. Then the classification, as we have seen in the previous diagram. So this is how we can identify the in classification and how we can identify underfitting in regression. So that is explained over here, that lot of classes will be misclassified in the training set as well as in the validation set. And in case of regression, the best fit line will fail to fit the data points in the effective manner, as we can see in this diagram. Fine. So in this diagram we can see the points are not actually being fitted on the line. And how can we predict the problem of underfitting? This is very much important to understand. So there are various methods. As we know, why the problem of underfitting happens? The problem of underfitting happens because the model has been less trained, or the training is very simplistic, oversimplistic in this case. So to avoid this problem, we can train the model a lot, and the problem of underfitting can be prevented. And we know that the problem of underfitting happens due to the oversimplicity of the model, so we can make the model a bit complex. So the main reason behind the model to underfit is using a model with lesser complexity than the required data. So it is more obvious to fix this model that it can be used. Now another problem with underfitting, the reason or cause for the underfitting was training with very few features. So how can we overcome from that problem? We can do more features can be used for training the model. So dataset that locks in enough feature to get a clearer inference, then feature engineering can be done for collecting more features and it will fit better. And then important terminology, another factor is regularization. So if we regularize the data too much or too beyond a limit, we have done the regularization, it will also leads toward the problem of underfitting. And to overcome the problem of underfitting, we can decrease the regularization, which is a process that helps generalizing the model by avoiding overfitting. So if the model is learning less and underfitting, then it is better to decrease the complexity and remove regularization techniques. At the end, if we have not got the solution, then we can go with the new model architecture. So it is the approach that we can try with the better result. So I hope you have got the idea of underfitting and how to prevent that problem of underfitting. So next we will proceed with overfitting, how to prevent overfitting and how it can be visualized. So before proceeding, if you have not subscribed my channel till now, then do subscribe my channel and share it with others for further information. So now we will continue with overfitting. Okay, so as we know, we are discussing about underfitting. So now we will move towards the overfitting. So vice versa of underfitting is overfitting, in which we have done too much training and too many features and less regularization. So these are the problems that can cause the problem of overfitting. So we saw that when the complexity of the model is too high and we have done a lot of training, then the problem of overfitting may occur. So with increasing complexity, the model tends to fit the noise. So in that case, the model is being trained with the noise or present in the data. That can be outliers also. So in this case, the overtraining is that much that the model will start learning from the noise. So we have to, let's have a look at the data visualization for our classification. So we know that this appropriate fitting, as we have discussed in previous slides also, that appropriate fitting is like this in classification. So we are going with that only. This is appropriate fitting. So if this appropriate fitting, and we try to do this, like we try to classify these points more correctly like this. Fine. So we are trying to do something like this. Now in this case, this is not a good thing. This is the thing that will lead toward the problem of overfitting. Fine. So we can see from this, these are the two classes, class 1 and class 2. So and in case of classification, it is simply a straight line, as we can see over here. And this is appropriate fitting. It will remain same in underfitting and overfitting. And over here in overfitting, we can see appropriate curve will remain same, but this is the overfitting curve. So this is how we can visualize the data in regression. So when we talk of regression, this is the appropriate fitting. This is the same diagram coming from underfitting over here. So now let's see how can we visualize this regression problem. So regression is the case when the fitting line tries to touch each and every point like this. Fine, as we can see in this diagram also. So if we try to make the fitting line pass to each and every data point, then the problem is known as regression, is known as overfitting problem. So the data points here are laid out in a given pattern instead of determining the least complexity model that fits the data properly. The model on the right has fitted the data points too well when compared to the appropriate fitting in the case. So this is how we can detect overfitting, that when we are having training and validation loss, just like in underfitting. So a very low training loss but a high validation loss will occur because training has been done with too much attributes. So training loss will be very low in this case, but the validation loss will be very high in this case. So in deep learning, if the training loss keeps on decreasing but the validation loss remains stagnant, in this case, this is known as overfitting. And then too complex prediction graph, if it comes, it is this plotted graph is too much complex, and this is also known as overfitting problem, as we can see this problem. So classification and regression we have already discussed over here. This is how we can detect overfitting in classification and how we can detect regression, overfitting in regression. So let's discuss briefly about preventing overfitting. So to prevent overfitting, early stop during the training can be done because we know the reason behind overfitting, that is overtraining the model. So we have to train the model lesser in this case. So we have to do early stopping during the training. This is especially prevalent in deep learning, allowing the model to train for a high number of iterations. It may lead to overfitting. So it is very necessary to stop the model from training when the model has started to overfit. This can be done with the help of the detection method, as we can see over here. Validation loss is increasing in this case. So this can be monitored. If we are getting too much validation loss, then stop the model from training. Then we can do the training with more data. The data available from training is less when compared to the model complexity. So in order to get the model to fit appropriate it is often advisable to increase the training data set. So we can train a less complex model as mentioned earlier as well. The main reason behind overfitting is excessive model complexity for a relative less complex data. So it is advisable to reduce the model complexity in order to avoid overfitting. So for deep learning, the model complexity can be reduced by reducing the number of layers and neurons. So I hope you are clear about Weiss variance, underfitting and overfitting. So in today's video we have discussed about underfitting and overfitting and how we can detect the underfitting and overfitting problems in classification and regression through visualization method. Also we have discussed about various other methods to detect and then prevent underfitting and overfitting. So if you have got the idea of underfitting and overfitting, then you can do like the video and share it for further updates. And you can subscribe to my channel, and if there is further suggestion you want video on a particular topic, then you can write in the comment box. So we will meet in the next video that will be about various complexity measures. That is how we can detect the complexity or accuracy of a model. So till then, bye bye.